Welcome to Rexposed, where the darkest secrets and the craziest drama from Reddit are uncovered. And the story I'm about to tell you comes from our malicious compliance. You want us to dress in business attire when all other departments get to wear blue jeans. You got it. TLDR, my manager insisted on us wearing office attire on Fridays, even though every other department had the freedom to wear jeans. We played the game, and within 3 weeks, the rule was dropped. This happened a few years ago at a major U.S. bank. In our building, every department had the freedom to wear jeans on Fridays, but for some reason, my manager thought it was a good idea for our team to wear office attire, even though we didn't deal with clients directly. Our department handled checks deposited via ATMs, which were usually thrown into mesh bags by armored couriers. To say the least, the job involved handling a lot of dirty, soggy paperwork in inclement weather. So when the manager announced that we would be required to dress in formal office attire on Fridays while everyone else wore jeans, needless to say, we weren't exactly thrilled. The master plan, toxic compliance at its best. The following Friday, I came into the office in the worst possible combination of office attire I could put together. Picture a pastel floral blouse paired with dark striped pants. I walked into the office with my head held high, proud of my professional outfit. My manager happened to be on vacation that week, so there was no one to comment on my ridiculous outfit. The next Friday, I did it again. I wore the most absurd combination I could find, once again strutting into the office like I had just come from the cover of a fashion magazine. Then it happened, a plot twist no one saw coming. Imagine my surprise when I walked into the office and everyone in my department was dressed exactly like me, wearing the most outlandish office attire imaginable. We were all walking around in these mismatched outfits, looking like we'd stepped out of a fashion disaster. Then my manager showed up. Her expression was priceless. She was clearly not amused. She called us all into a meeting, telling us our outfits were completely inappropriate for a professional environment and that she'd have to write us all up. I calmly pulled out the company handbook and asked her to show us exactly where it said office attire had to be appropriate or fashionable. I pointed out that the dress code specifically mentioned clean and pressed business attire, slacks, skirts, shirts, and clearly stated that jeans, t-shirts, and ripped clothing were prohibited. But nothing was mentioned about how stylish the outfits had to be. After a few awkward moments of her flipping through the pages, she couldn't find anything to back up her point. She stammered and said she would contact HR to discuss the situation further. The game changer, toxic compliance, wins. No one was written up that day. In fact, news of our revolt spread throughout the building, and by the following week, 2 other departments decided to join our rebellious movement. They showed up dressed just as terribly as we did, all in the name of office attire. Now, the pressure was on my manager. She quickly caved and allowed us to wear jeans on Fridays like everyone else. Toxic compliance FTW. To this day, I still chuckle about the whole situation. Sometimes, all it takes to win is a little creativity and a lot of toxic compliance. This story is truly a great example of how we can use toxic compliance to make unreasonable rules look absurd and create change. The manager's requirement for the department to wear business attire on Fridays while other departments were allowed to wear jeans created a clear injustice. However, the way the employees in this story responded by wearing truly unacceptable outfits forced the manager to admit that change was necessary. This not only highlights an issue in the dress code policy, but also serves as a lesson about the power of standing up against unreasonable rules. Instead of just complaining or protesting in the usual way, they used creativity and an understanding of the rules to push the manager into changing the decision. This story also makes us reflect on the need for rules in the workplace, but sometimes these rules need to be flexible and fair for everyone. A little humor and cleverness can change an entire system. What do you think? Leave your comments below the video. Next will be a story about Shredded My Goose Pick. My homie crushed his boss's rules and exposed his dirty secret. My friend Idris recently told me the wildest story from his first job at a shady call center that honestly felt straight out of a corporate tragedy film. But here's the kicker, Idris didn't just survive. He flipped the script in a way that would make any revenge movie proud. The odd boss and ridiculous rules. At the time, Idris was only 17, an innocent kid stepping into the treacherous world of work. At home, he had an unusual obsession: geese, not just as pets, but as family. He even had a favorite goose named Blinchik, which means pancake in Russian. Missing Blinchik, Idris brought a tiny wallet-sized photo of his beloved goose to work, placing it on his desk for a little comfort in the cold, corporate environment. Enter Dave, his quirky boss with rules that made no sense. Dave had one ironclad rule: no personal items on your desk. We need professionalism here. That sounded good in theory, but if you looked at Dave's desk, it was a disaster: old coffee cups, rusty fish figurines, and piles of random junk. But no, a tiny goose photo was the real problem: the public humiliation. One day, Dave discovered the photo of Blinchik and completely lost it. Not only did he reprimand Idris, but he also forced him to tear it up right in front of his co-workers. The 17-year-old froze, not knowing how to stand up for himself, but under the watchful eyes of the office, he quietly complied. The pieces of Blinchik fell to the floor as Dave smirked in triumph, as if he'd won some great battle. But Dave made a fatal mistake. He thought Idris was just a submissive kid, but little did he know, this kid had the heart of a warrior. The perfect payback. The very next day, Idris came into the office empty-handed. No pen, no notebook, no headphones, nothing personal at all. Dave growled, "What's going on? Aren't you working?" Idris shrugged nonchalantly. "You said no personal items." "I'm waiting for the company to provide what I need." Dave turned purple, but Idris stood firm. A few co-workers exchanged looks, and soon enough, they followed suit. Within hours, the office was in chaos. Calls were dropping, customers were furious, and Dave was running around like a headless chicken trying to get things back to normal. Finally, Dave had no choice but to concede. He grumbled, "Fine. Bring whatever you need, just keep it low-key." Idris calmly pulled out a new picture of Blinchik and slapped it on his desk. This time, Dave didn't dare say a word. But the story doesn't end there. A few weeks later, Dave tried to retaliate. He attempted to fire Idris for insubordination. But Idris was no longer the naive kid he used to be. He had secretly recorded the entire no personal items incident, totally legal in their area. Without hesitation, Idris sent the recording to HR, along with a detailed report about Dave's hypocrisy. Dave was reprimanded heavily, but the real bombshell was still to come. Dave's dirty secret. It turned out that Dave wasn't just a bad boss, he was a thief. A senior colleague started auditing the office expenses and discovered a massive discrepancy. Over the years, Dave had been quietly skimming money from the office petty cash, small amounts, but consistent and regular. He'd marked them as office expenses for things like coffee, paper, or random office supplies, but the money was going straight into his pocket. Idris believed Dave had set up the ridiculous rules to keep everyone on edge and distracted, preventing anyone from noticing what he was really up to. Now, the truth was out. Dave was immediately fired and even faced criminal charges for embezzling funds. And the finale. Idris didn't just get justice for himself, he inadvertently took down a fraudster using his own game. And Blinchik, still living the royal life, waddling around Idris' yard, ready to honk at anyone who gets too close. So, Reddit, was this the ultimate revenge story or what? I think this is a perfect example of playing dumb and winning. Dave thought he could crush a 17-year-old over a goose picture. Who would have thought that small-minded act would trigger the first domino, leading to the ultimate comeback that cost him his career? Idris is the true "you mess with me, I mess back harder." A revenge move that's both clever and clean, and it exposed a money-embezzling scandal within the company. Truly a karma at lightning speed moment that we all want to see. And most importantly, Blinchik is still the king. And finally will be a story about won't get paid more for doing my job quicker. Alright, I'll just do my job slower. I've been working as a software developer at a mid-sized company for a few years now. When I first joined, I was given projects with timelines that were, let's just say, generous. I mean, I could finish a task that they'd given me in 2 weeks, but no, instead, they'd give me 3 months. Yeah, you read that right. I had to work with deadlines so long I could practically take a vacation. The first 6 months at the company, I was given projects to work on with these ridiculous time frames. I'd finish them quickly, but no one was rushing me. I thought, okay, I'm doing a great job. My performance is stellar, and they'll probably reward me for working efficiently, right? Well, turns out, I was wrong. When it came time for my performance review, guess what happened? My salary increase and bonus didn't reflect the insane amount of work I was doing. Instead, it just reflected the base salary in my contract. So, naturally, I thought, well, if they're not rewarding me for working faster or smarter, why should I work faster or smarter? Here's where it gets interesting. I decided to slow down my work to match the absurd time frames they gave me. I still finished the same tasks in 2 weeks, but now, I just dragged it out to fit the 3-month window. I didn't bother rushing through anything, and the best part, they had no idea I was doing it. I'd still produce quality work, but now it was stretched out to the deadline. Fast forward to now, I've been with this company for years, and I'm perfectly happy with my pace. I still work from home and, in fact, I've picked up a second job as a software developer at another company. They let me work at my own pace, too, and I'm crushing it at both jobs. I'm essentially only working 2 months a year on my main job, and I'm making twice as much with my second job. Here's the kicker. The company has offered me significant raises to get me back to my original speed. And guess what? I turned them down every single time. I don't need to work any faster. Why should I? I'm already making more than I need, and I've found a perfect balance. They accepted my pace after about 1.5 years of refusing to change. But here's the juicy part. Now, I'm making 3 times what I used to, thanks to my second job. Meanwhile, my main company still thinks they're getting the same productivity from me, not realizing that I've perfected the art of doing the least while making the most. Moral of the story, don't let companies think they can control your pace without paying for it. If they don't value you appropriately, you have the power to set your own terms. That's a smart strategy. Sometimes, working smarter and saving time is better than rushing through tasks just to meet the company's expectations. They say work less but be effective, and this is a perfect example. Congrats on using your time and resources wisely. Hopefully, companies will learn from stories like this. Never underestimate the value of your employees. If you find this topic interesting, please leave a comment below the video. And don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Exciting things are waiting for you.